The next speaker is Deputy McGrath.
Coming in. There's been a lot of illogical situations around this whole way we've handled the COVID. I earlier said we were trying to threaten the curve, and we did. So why are you victimising, we say, the whole segment of our economy, and that being the pubs, without any evidence? And who came up with the guideline that if you go in and have a €9 meal, you're okay for 90 minutes or whatever, and totally unfair to that? I also, the back to school. Schools are going back today, national schools, secondary schools, and our Leaving Cert students are getting the results at the weekend. They've been through an awful time, and we all want them to go back. But, I mean, how is it logical, again, that they can sit in a classroom for 6 or 7 hours, children, and we in this Parliament are going next week over to the Convention Centre at an enormous cost, 25,000 plus per day, when the children can sit in schools, secondary and national, up to 18 years of age, and we're forced. And I've had this debate with the Council and Business Committee. We've asked to come back to our draw. We have some advice that we could at a metre distance, but you're insisting on 2 metre distance. So where's the logic in that? Also, there's lots of things that don't make any sense. I think, and I wish him well, Dr. Holohan and his family. I understand that he said earlier in the time that mask wearing was of little benefit, and there was question marks around it. And here we are now enforcing the masks on people. So the whole thing, there's no logic to it from start to finish. No logic whatsoever. I had a young man that was out last Saturday night, fortnight. He met one of the people, and we're in the middle of a cluster area now in Cashel, in Tipperary, and he met a person who was at a party the night before where there was a number of people infected. He rang his employer on Monday morning. The employer told him to stay at home, go to his doctor. Got a test. He got a test Monday evening at 4 o'clock. He waited until 5 p.m. on Friday evening to get the results. But worse than that, now this is now in a hotspot, worse than that, he had nobody asked him about contact tracing, who was he with, no one asked him about contact tracing of the others who were at that party or that were infected. So look, this is a mess in many ways, and you spoof out figures there that we're going to have so many tests and the contact trace. It's simply not happening. It's not fit for purpose, and those mixed messages are unfair. That was unfair to that young man, miss his week's work, to his employer, unfair to him as well, and the fact there was absolutely not a phone call to him or to the person that he was with that had infected. So, I mean, there's some very dubious issues around it, and we need clarity, and we're not getting the clarity. And we also want a roadmap. Now, it's what we're aiming to do. I know we're aiming to beat it, but I mean, we had flatten the curve was the big one. And I want to support an earlier speaker who said we've taken the focus away enough from washing the hands and hygiene to mask wearing. And mask wearing was supposed to be not safe or was frowned upon at the start. So how can we keep changing the goalposts? How are we going to get the public to keep supporting this situation and when there's lockdown in pubs? And thankfully, and I thank Minister Donnelly as well, we didn't get a lockdown in Tipperary. We thought we might, like Kildare and others. We can't afford it, and it won't be sustained. So we're very much mixed messages and illogical decisions. As I said, the €9 sandwich in your hand and you can drink in the pub, and the wet pubs can't be open. That doesn't make any sense. And I'd like to answer as many questions as you can. And if you can't, you might reply to me in writing, please.
And I was going to ask you to allow the witnesses to come in. Thanks.
So, Deputy, firstly, NEFIT never said anything about a €9 meal. NEFIT said that restaurants, in the traditional sense of what we understand as a restaurant in this country, should open. In relation to masks, we have a choice. We can send out a set of messages and stop looking at the evidence as it evolves, never change our position, never learn, and just stick with what we have. Or we can learn, evolve, and build on the knowledge that emerges in the context of a pandemic a virus that no one knew about 6 months ago, in the context of a pandemic that no one in the world has had to deal with in terms of its scale in our lifetimes. So yes, things will change, but I would absolutely counter the message, and I think we all have a responsibility as doctors, as politicians, the media, every organisation in this country needs, if possible, to stop talking about mixed messages. The most important messages have not changed since the start of this pandemic. We need to wash our hands multiple times a day. We need to stay physically distant from one another to stop giving this virus the opportunity to spread to one another. We need to avoid crowds. We need to decrease congregation. We need to practice respiratory etiquette. As soon as we have a symptom, we need to contact our GP and isolate to protect ourselves, our families and our loved ones. And in relation to face coverings, the evidence has changed. We've evolved with that evidence. And yes, we were not convinced about it at the start. And one of our key concerns at the start was that people would put undue emphasis on face coverings to the expense of other measures. And as you alluded to in your question there, some people have done that, which is why it's so important that in all of the maelstrom that everyone is talking about and all that's going on around us, that those key basic messages keep getting put out, because it is those basic things that if we all do collectively and individually, it is those measures that will prevent us from having to take much more restrictive measures that no one, least of all ourselves and NEFIT, want to be having to recommend.
Thanks, Dr. Glenn.